child who isn't even here.
What the hell do...
You ungrateful, selfish wretch. You come into my house. You lay your filthy man-hands on my daughters. And now you even try to steal my property. How dare
What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for stopping by. Now today I'm going to be reviewing Resident Evil Village, and I'm going to talk about all the things that I really loved about this game. I'm going to talk about some of the things that I feel like it didn't hit the mark, but overall I think Resident Evil Village was an amazing game. I beat this game 5 times. I'm actually running this game with knives only. You're probably going to see some of that gameplay here. This game is just amazing, and from someone who loves Resident Evil, who's been playing Resident Evil since he was a kid back on the Nintendo 64, with Resident Evil 2 being the introduction to the horror genre, I've been hooked ever since. I've been loving these games, and of course we've had our highs and lows, you know, Resident Evil 4 being one of the best and Resident Evil 6 really not hitting that mark. I think Resident Evil 8 does an amazing job at combining that horror and that action. Personally, for me, I do love Resident Evil when it's, you know, third person survival horror. Puzzles are hard, and you know, you're just trying to find your way through that old school style. But I will give Capcom a lot of respect here, because I do respect the fact that they went first person. They're doing something new. They're probably trying to compete with games like Outlast, and the first person camera really does a great job at immersing you into that horror experience. And man, there are moments in this game that really get you. There are things about the first person mode that you really can't do with third person. Even though I said I enjoy the third person more, I do respect the fact that the first person mode really does capture and immerses you into a whole nother layer of fear and immersion and all of that great stuff. Now, Resident Evil 8 is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. You play as Ethan Winters once again, and this is where, you know, Ethan Winters, he's one of those characters that he's very dull and he's very kind of boring, and to me it goes back to, you know, the original Resident Evil games where you fell in love with some of these characters, and then you have Ethan Winters where you're just like, what? This guy's so boring. And you know, that's just what it is, right? But I think Resident Evil 8 does an amazing job with villains, like always, but I really think in Village they definitely nail the bosses, the bad guys, the villains. Obviously you have the tall vampire lady, which became like this iconic, you know, boss for this game, and I don't think Capcom anticipated the hype and, you know, the internet being so horny for her. But I think just genuinely she is an amazing villain. You know, she's freaking tall, she chases you around, she's got the Wolverine type claws that come out. I'm not gonna, you know, spoil anything here, but the thing that she turns into, and we all know she's gonna turn into something, is definitely wild and crazy. But definitely did a good job with the villains, and I think I would really love to see Resident Evil kind of go back and focus more on the protagonist. One thing I do want to note here is, and I think some people kind of agree with me here, is the puzzle solving and just how straightforward the game is. Resident Evil 8 is definitely not a hard game by any means. The puzzle solving is very straightforward and you don't really get lost. As opposed to the original Resident Evil games, I remember being lost and just confused on what to do next. And I think they've done this for quite a few reasons. One of the few reasons is the original games, I mean, you could only pack so many, you know, content back in the day, so they had to make the games a little bit harder, and I get that. But with Resident Evil 8, I think they are kind of appealing to more of a casual market, because the game definitely seems very easy, especially casual mode. Man, like it takes forever for enemies to actually take your health to red. But that's not really how I played the game. I played it on normal, then I played on the hardest difficulty, and then now I'm playing it on easy with knives only. But it's very, very easy, this game. Now, going back to how I feel about first person when it comes to Resident Evil, like I said, when it comes to immersion, when it comes to that, you know, that capture of fear and horror, it does feel really great when you're in first person. It does add more of a scare. But I still think that Capcom here hasn't fully nailed that first person, you know, gameplay and shooting. Like the running is very slow and a level of jankiness with it. And then the shooting, although I'll say that the shooting did feel better the more I played, in the beginning I was just a little turned off, just like I was does in Resident Evil 7, just because the first person aspect is not something that I feel like Resident Evil and Capcom are great at, and obviously they started with 7, so they haven't really fine-tuned and spent a lot of time with that, and you really feel that in the gameplay. It's either that or they made this game feel this way by design to amplify the horror. I'm not sure, but there's definitely a level of clunkiness and jank when it comes to the first person. That's not to take away from the gameplay, because I do loved and enjoyed the gameplay. I just feel like the first person aspect and overall the gameplay of the first person could be fine-tuned and done better. Now let's talk about the graphics and the sound and just the quality of the game. This is something that I have to praise Resident Evil, Capcom for, you know, really raising the bar over the years. The graphics in this game are insane. I played it on a PlayStation 5. The interior design of this game is just literally mind-blowing, especially when you're in the castle, you're running around, everything's shiny, everything seems real. It's just crazy. Another thing is the sound. Like I said, the sound, the ambiance, the level of immersion that you feel with sound. Like, you might be walking down a hallway and you can hear the pipe inside the walls, or the creak, or the window, or something outside. Just the level of quality when it comes to the sound really does amplify that fear factor. And I think this is where Resident Evil does things best. Where it lacks in some areas, it really does a phenomenal job in others. So let's talk about the fear factor of this game for a bit. Now, I did talk about how it is a little easy, and I feel like it does cater a little bit more towards the casual audience. But, you know, there are quite a bit of challenges in the game, especially around the end. But when it comes to the fear factor, and what I've heard was that Resident Evil 7 was a little too scary for people, and their feedback was that they're going to tone down the horror and kind of the violence and all that. I was not disappointed here, to be honest. When I first heard the news, I was a little skeptical and disappointed because of the fact that I want Resident Evil to give me the most craziest horror experience that they can do. I want them to constantly set the bar. But when I heard, you know, they got feedback from Resident Evil 7 and then they toned it down, I was a little sad about that. But I'm gonna be honest here, I was not disappointed. There are moments in this game that had me. I really love the pace of the game and how the game kind of puts you in all these little places, and you know, you got to find keys to unlock the next area, kind of, you know, traditional Resident Evil. But the set pieces in this game were all pretty cool. You know, I show you the castle, but there's also so many other places, and by the end of the game, you're gonna be like, holy cow, what the hell? The game just kind of throws everything at you, and I think the ending of the game is really awesome, and it really does tie a lot of the story together and makes things make more sense, especially with Ethan Winters. I really got to give credit to the ending of the game, the kind of like the last place you play, because you just don't expect the enemy types to be that way, and from the game's marketing, you just don't see this coming. So I really love that. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I want you to check it out for yourself. But that pretty much wraps up the video, guys. I really appreciate it if you made it this far. I really love this game. I hope you enjoy it too. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. But if you did enjoy it and maybe, you know, you want to stick around for the future, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.
So you finally came to see me. Everyone. Ow! So mean! A dream! This is a dream! Why are you doing this? I don't want to die.
I'm sick of bugs.
Cassandra, come here now. Enough games. I want that man's head. Now go.
Of course, Mother.